Welcome to freedomlovin.com, where we focus on building freedom in an unfree world. Through personal development, location independence, and passive income strategies. Now here's your host, Kevin Koskela.
Welcome to Freedom Lovin'. This is Kevin, and this is episode number 29. And in just a minute, I have an interview with the Brazilian Gringo, Josh Plotkin. And we'll be talking about being a location-independent entrepreneur and traveling in Brazil and all of the exciting adventures that go along with that. Just want to mention I have another 5-star review to read off here, and this one is from Cecil Mays, or Cecil. I think it's Cecil, but I'm not sure. Life Engineer, 5 stars. This is a really great podcast. It's in the top 5 of podcasts in this genre that I look forward to the next episode's release. I was amazed when I heard Kevin say he'd only gotten 2 reviews in a week on one of the podcasts from a few weeks ago. It makes me grateful to have been listening since the beginning. So I decided to write a review. I have not liked 1 or 2 of the guest interviews since I disagree with the opinions. But even then, I was glad to hear those points of view. Keep up the great work. If you ever want a guest on to chat about the struggles of escaping the rat race, then let me know. Absolutely, yeah, Cecil, I would love to chat with you. I think that's one of the points that I'm really wanting to hit on here is the hardships, or not the hardships, but the struggles, like you said, of getting out of the rat race. There's just so many issues. I mean, the number one thing that I always hear is, should I quit my job and then pursue my business, or should I do both at the same time? How can I do that when I don't have any time anyway? So those types of things are really what a lot of people are struggling with in order to try to become free, leave the rat race, and live a freedom-loving life. So yeah, just shoot me an email, Kevin at freedomlovin.com, and we can chat for sure. But yeah, thanks again for the review, and I really appreciate that. And if you, the listener, want to help us out, I'd appreciate if you could just go into iTunes and give us a rating and review. If you just take a couple minutes to do that, that would be awesome. And I will read it on the next episode of Freedom Lovin'. Did you know that the State Department can yank your passport if you owe as little as $2,500 to some bureaucracy? You literally wouldn't be able to leave. You'd be trapped like a rat. I want to make sure that that doesn't happen to you. You know you need to be prepared for these types of tragedies, but where do you start? Some people suggest leaving the U.S., but if you have a spouse, family, kids, mortgage, etc., all that, you may not be ready to pack your bags and watch the meltdown from afar. I want you to learn the 7 steps to freeing yourself that no matter what the U.S. government does, you'll be ahead of the game. Over a dozen other experts will be sharing that information live at a special, very intimate event in Las Vegas this January 23rd to 25th. The event is called Passport to Freedom. You'll discover ways to reduce your dependence on the United States without having to leave the country. Ways to increase your personal sovereignty, ways to protect your money, ways to quit your job and make money from anywhere. Everything you need to create a freedom-oriented lifestyle will be at this 3-day event. Peter Schiff will be keynoting there, Vitalik Buterin from Bitcoin Magazine, and Andrew Henderson of Nomad Capitalist, along with my friend Steve Michaels of KeepYourAssets.net, who I've had on the show here. As the official podcast partner at the event, we've secured an early bird offer for just the Freedom Lovin' listeners. And you have to go to freedomlovinevent.com and click on the banner at the top of the page. And that's freedomlovinevent.com. Get your tickets today because this very personal, intimate event is all about taking action. You'll learn stuff that you can't find online. This is new material you can act on immediately. So get your tickets today at freedomlovinevent.com. So on a personal note, this week is Thanksgiving in the U.S., and I am definitely thankful for so many things, including you, the listener, you for listening to this show and supporting us with your kind reviews and blog comments and suggestions and just even your subscriptions to iTunes or however you're getting this podcast. So thank you so much for all that. So as usual, I refuse to travel this week. I typically never go anywhere on Thanksgiving because I do not want to deal with traffic or deal with crowds at airports like half of America typically does on this weekend. It's actually the busiest travel weekend of the year, so I just stay home and keep it mellow. So I'm looking forward to the weekend. It's always a nice time in San Diego. The sun is typically out, and it's a good time to get out there and do some activities. I'm planning on going on a hike and getting some exercise, and the city will be quiet because San Diego is a transplant city, and most people that live here are from somewhere else. So around the holidays, everybody heads to the airports and hits the road, and the city empties out, so it feels like a desolate place in a good way. So there won't be the typical traffic jams and things like that. So, and what else? Oh, I have a trip that I'm going to be planning soon, and it's going to be around mid-March, to do Machu Picchu in Peru. I've had that on my bucket list for quite some time, and I was just talking to Niall Doherty of Disrupting the Rabblement, who I had on the show a few episodes back, and so he's actually making his way over to South America, and he'll actually be on a barge for going across the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, to get over to South America. So that should be an interesting time. I think he said it takes about a month on the barge. So yeah, I don't think there's any internet there, so it'll be interesting for him. But anyway, he's going to be in Peru around mid-March, and my plan is to meet him down there and do the Machu Picchu hike, or one of the hikes, and just see a really beautiful part of the world, and then maybe spend a few days in Peru, and who knows, I might have some. If I have time, I will try to check out some more of South America, since I haven't been anywhere down there. So maybe Chile with Jeff Berwick's Gulch Gulch and all that. It would be interesting to see what's going on there, because it will be, their summer, still kind of late summer there, and it should be a nice time of year to be there. Also would love to check out Argentina and maybe Brazil, but all of that would take a lot of time because it's a gigantic area. So maybe do what I can this time and see what happens. But speaking of Brazil, without further ado, here's my interview with the Brazilian Gringo, Josh Plotkin. Hope you enjoy the interview, and go out there and build some freedom, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, well, I'm really excited to have my friend and fellow Dynamite Circle member, Josh Plotkin, on the show today, and his website is BrazilianGringo.com. Hey, Josh, welcome to Freedom Lovin'.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for having it on. It's a pleasure to be here talking with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like, it's weird, it kind of seems like a really short time ago that I saw you in Chiang Mai, but I guess that was like 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's been about a month, right? But that's the thing. Time just seems to just pass by like in an instant. We can go months without seeing each other, and then when we see each other, it's as if we were never apart.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us a little bit about your background, and then how you actually became the Brazilian Gringo.
My story really starts about 5 years ago. After I graduated high school, I ended up at a college that I didn't really care anything about. And, from a long series of events have led me here to Brazil. But I think what's interesting is the journey and, all the successive steps that have led to where I am today. Because, I'm 23. I've been in Brazil for about 3 years now. And, if you told me 5 years ago that I would be doing what I'm doing today, I wouldn't have really doubted it, but I would have been surprised at just everything that happened along the way and how I got here. So it started with just a deep dissatisfaction with what I was doing with my life and the college that I was at and people that I was around and the things that I was learning and the activities that I was doing. It just didn't feel like this is what life was all about. And so one day I decided to drop out of college and go do something else. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I figured, what I was doing was so wrong that I had to, even if I was doing something else that was wrong, at least it was less wrong than what I was doing before. So I started working in the family business, doing bail bonds, bailing people out of jail. And that was pretty cool. I was making good money doing that, but that also felt wrong. It was my parents' path. It wasn't my path. I was doing that for a while, and just in the back of my mind, I knew I wanted to be doing something different. I wanted to be traveling the world. I've been studying. I was taking a few language classes at the community college, and I just wanted to get out in the world and start exploring. So one day, I told everybody that I'm just going to go to Mexico for about 2 months. And when I come back, I'll resume what I was doing before. I'll start up my own bail bond business and, make a lot of money doing that. But from day one, as soon as I left the U.S., I knew that I could just never come back. That I had to keep on this path and just keep traveling the world, keep learning new languages, and find a way to stay abroad forever.
You mean like never go back to like a normal life, basically?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like an imposter all this time before that. I felt like trying to live a normal life, I was being an imposter. I wasn't being true to myself, and that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. I didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing, but I knew that what I was doing wasn't what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And so just by taking risks and going after just little pieces of inspiration, I was able to get closer to what I should be doing. So, yeah, I went to Mexico for about 2 months, and yeah, that was a pretty cool trip. The original idea was that I was going to go work on a farm, and through this program called WOOF. That's the Worldwide Organization of Organic Farmers. But pretty quickly I discovered that I wasn't supposed to be a farmer.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool, it's a cheap way to travel. It was a good experience. I was hanging out with local people and getting to experience the culture through farming. But yeah, manual labor is not my highest calling, so
yeah.
Yeah, so then one of the guys on the farm, he taught English in Asia, and that kind of opened my eyes to the possibility that I could teach English.
Right.
And so I went and did my English teaching certification, and then went to Colombia and started teaching English there. And Colombia was pretty cool, but you can't really make a lot of money teaching English in Colombia. So one day my brother says to me, "Hey, I'm going to go to Brazil. You want to meet up with me there?" So I said, yeah, and then I got on a bus, went south to Ecuador and Peru, and met up with him in Manaus in Brazil. It was actually cheaper doing that than flying straight there from Colombia.
Yeah.
And then, once I came to Brazil for the first time, I just fell in love with the place. I've been teaching English and doing other things since then, but yeah, Brazil's really captured me, and I plan on being here for a long time.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're now fluent in Portuguese?
Yeah, so it's been about 2.5 years, 3 years that I've been in Brazil. I speak fluent Portuguese. I spoke Spanish before, so that made it a lot easier to learn Portuguese.
Yeah.
They're both pretty similar. And they have a lot of words in common, a lot of same grammar structure. Pronunciation is quite different, but if you speak Spanish, it's a lot easier to learn Portuguese.
Yeah. Cool. So now, as far as, and maybe you can comment on all the background noise. We were talking about that before the show. It's pretty loud there.
Yeah, so like at my house, the internet kind of isn't that great. It'll go out in between calls. And then Brazil doesn't really have a coffee shop culture, so it's really a challenge sometimes to find a good place you can set up and use Wi-Fi. So, and even if I did find a place, it'd be really loud. I'm actually at a place called Regis. They have offices all over the world, and you can actually use their offices for the business lounge area for free if you find the coupon code online. So that's a little trick for all those aspiring world travelers out there who want office space for cheap.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is it about location independence that you highly value?
Well, there's just so many aspects to location independence. I think just being able to pick up and start again, go anywhere at the drop of a hat, that's pretty cool. Being able to work anywhere, regardless of, just being able to work anywhere and not be really tied down to a routine. I mean, you find a routine in the lack of routine, but you're not tied to a specific location. You can just go anywhere, and like one day be in Brazil, the next day be in London, then the day after that be in Thailand.
Yeah, jet lag might be a little tough with that kind of a routine, but... Yeah,
that was pretty rough earlier this year, getting to Asia. Yeah, I don't really travel a whole lot like that. Yeah, jet lag and it's just really kind of disruptive to be moving locations all the time.
Yeah.
But if I wanted to, I could, and that's really cool.
Yeah. And so your website, now you have a program that teaches people how to basically teach English in Brazil? Right. So, after teaching for a while, people start asking me the same questions, how can I come to Brazil and do the same thing? So I started the website to just put all the information out there and make it easier for people who want to come here and teach English in Brazil. And then, there's different layers of information. There's some things that are better to be said in a more private setting, so I created the program for that.
and also do private coaching for people who want to relocate to Brazil and get a job as an English teacher here.
Yeah. So now, what city are you in?
Right now I'm in Rio de Janeiro.
Okay. You've been in other places around there, right?
Yeah, so I've lived in a bunch of different cities in Brazil. I was in Belo Horizonte for about a year and some change. That's the third largest city in Brazil. And I think for people who want a different kind of experience, who want to live in Brazil, but don't want to be around a lot of foreigners, and they want to really experience Brazilian culture in a more isolated setting, then Belo Horizonte is a cool place to do that. It's still a big city, so you have a lot of the conveniences that you get in a big city, but it doesn't feel as crowded.
Nice. And what about Rio? What do you think about it?
Well, yeah, after living in Belo for a year, I wanted a bigger city. I wanted more spontaneity, just more options of things to do, more a peer group. I mean, for learning Portuguese, Belo Horizonte was cool, but for networking with other entrepreneurs and just other people who are doing interesting things, it's easier to find those types of people in Rio.
Yeah, that's kind of been my experience. You go to the bigger cities, and there's just more opportunities to network and meet new interesting people.
Yeah, and there's more infrastructure here. More people have come here. It's been a tourist city for 100 years, so life is a bit easier in that sense. Being the first foreigner to try and do something here. People are used to foreigners here.
Yeah, totally. Here's the topic that I wanted to get into is what do you think about staying out of the U.S. while this country, while we kind of fall apart here economically and politically and everything? Do you think that going to South America is a good idea and just kind of like hanging out down there, or do you think it's all the same? It doesn't really matter.
There's a couple of ways you can approach this question, but we'll start from the kind of more negative side of things. Is that if there is going to be a collapse, then where do you want to be? Do you want to be in a place that has experienced these kind of hardships before? Do you want to be in a place that has never seen true hardship? Or, it was at least 2 or 3 generations ago, the last time the Americans really had to deal with struggle, really. Whereas in Brazil, there was a dictatorship up until recently. They had to deal with hyperinflation as early as the 90s. So it's still imparted on the national psyche, just all these catastrophic events, and people are, I think, more equipped to handle those kinds of things. Culture grew up around that, and people are more equipped for economic crisis.
Yeah.
And so by being here, I think it's not going to be as bad as in the U.S. When shit hits the fan, people are just going to not know what to do. There's going to be massive strikes and rioting and all this. And there'll probably be some of that here and other places if it's really that widespread and bad, but at least people here will come together a bit more, and I have more optimism here than the U.S.
Wait, what was that? I missed that last thing you said.
I just have greater optimism for here than I do for the U.S.
Oh yeah, as far as weathering the storm.
Right. So I kind of took a negative turn there, but to put a more positive spin on it, I think that it's not going to be as bad as people think it's going to be. Life will go on, business will continue, and if you prepare now, then I don't think that you're going to be really affected by what happens next.
Yeah, that's right. Are you buying Bitcoin?
Yeah, a little bit. Bitcoin is an interesting topic. I think Bitcoin definitely has potential. Whether it can survive through government's attempts to regulate and control it, it's still to be seen. But if it does survive that, then it'll probably be around for a long, long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're pretty big on Bitcoin.
Yeah, I just did a show on that actually. My last show was it's an introduction to Bitcoin. So.
All right. So what's your kind of forecast for Bitcoin going into the next 5 years?
I'm extremely bullish on it for the next 5 years. I think it's going to be a lot of kind of up and down for now, like a lot of volatility, but you just buy it when you can, and you just wait it out, and I think it'll pay off, because I believe in the technology. I believe in that we are going to head towards an economy where we are using digital currencies. And I think Bitcoin, it's just got such a head start that it will be the one. And the fact that all these people are starting to take Bitcoin now, it's like it's starting to take over. And if you listen to my last podcast, which will be out sometime next week, we talk about the total amount of investment money out there. If you just take that and you take 10% of that, it turns out to be about 140,000 per Bitcoin. That's kind of if money all flooded in, if 10% of that money flooded into Bitcoin, it would be about 140,000 per Bitcoin. So I think then that's kind of a conservative estimate as far as how high it could go. So I think it could go quite a bit higher than that. But in the meantime, yeah, there's going to be some rocky periods, and there's going to be some times where it looks like, the media is going to be down on it, and the politicians will probably start doing things to make it look not legitimate, and so it'll scare people off. But I think, overall, I'm pretty excited about it. Do you hear anything about it in Brazil? Is that even talked about?
Not on any kind of mainstream media outlet, but on at least in Brazilian libertarian circles, it gets talked about it. I mean, there's not that much of a gap between, or if any, between Brazilian libertarian circles and just worldwide libertarian movements. They really talk about pretty much the same things.
Yeah, what have you found there as far as the liberty movement goes there?
Well, the liberty movement here is starting to grow. There is a Mises Institute Brazil. They did a conference last year. Then there's also some other organizations like Ordem Livre. They did some seminars earlier this year as well, one that I attended. And there's also an event called the Liberty Forum in the south of Brazil. It's been going on for 20-something years, but that's not super libertarian. But, a lot of libertarians go to that. And then, there's definitely a growing movement here. They're very active on Facebook. But it's a very young movement, Yeah. They still have there hasn't been a whole lot of Brazilian scholars that have written books and really analyzed the deep issues relating to, from a libertarian perspective, about Brazil. But I think that's changing. My generation, they're growing up reading about this stuff, and it's really influencing their worldview. And so I think over the next 10, 20 years, we'll see a lot of interesting books coming from Brazilian authors, Brazilian thinkers.
That's awesome to hear. How's the economy there in general? Is it pretty good? Like, people are generally working, or?
Yeah, the economy, it's depending on how you look at it, depending on who you're listening to. But the economic forecast for Brazil looks pretty favorable in the short term. Recent figures haven't been too promising. There's been stagnant growth, and Brazil is just kind of it's a very bureaucratic place. It's a really hard place to work and do business. So the government creates a lot of inefficiency and creates a lot of unemployment just through its bad policies. And so there's always been kind of a labor problem in Brazil in terms of finding good work. With the internet, I think that'll change and get better.
Yeah, how expensive is it? I know you've lived in several cities, so it probably varies quite a bit. But generally, how expensive is it to live there? As a location-independent entrepreneur, of course, that's one of our favorite topics: is where's the next place? Where can we go and live and get good Wi-Fi and not spend much? Yeah,
I think for Brazil, you definitely want to have a bit more money than you would if you were gonna be living in places like Southeast Asia. I think Thailand, you could probably survive on $500 a month, whereas to have that same standard of living in Brazil, you'd want to have maybe $1,500, $2,000 a month. It is possible to do it for cheaper if you're really bootstrapping it hard. Like, I was doing $1,000 a month in Belo Horizonte for a while and still maintaining a nice standard of living.
Yeah.
But I think you definitely want to have more money in Brazil than you'd think you need to have.
What's like if you were to rent, like, let's say a one-bedroom apartment in Rio and nothing extravagant, just a basic one-bedroom that has everything you need, what would that cost you?
Oh, wow. Well, Rio, the situation in Rio is pretty bad because, the World Cup is next year and the Olympics for 2 years after that, and Rio is just a really touristic city in general, so prices in Rio aren't necessarily indicative of the rest of Brazil, but for a place like you were describing, you would expect to spend maybe $300 or $400 for just a small room, depending. If you want to get in the heart of the action, like the really touristic zones like Copacabana, Ipanema, with loan, you pay maybe $500 a month for a couch in someone's living room, and maybe they put up a little tarp thing to separate that. It's a pretty bad situation.
Yeah.
For budget travelers trying to find accommodation, you really gotta get lucky with it.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the other city where you were before?
Belo Horizonte, it's a bit more reasonable. For that same $300 or $400 a month, you can get your own room in a nice apartment in a good area of town.
Yeah.
You pay like a little bit more, $500,000-$600,000 a month. You can get a really nice apartment just all by yourself in a pretty good neighborhood of town.
Okay. So like maybe 1 Bitcoin a month.
Yeah. Next month, when the price of Bitcoin soars a bit higher, that'll cover your costs.
Yeah, that'll change. Cool. So on a personal level, like, are you able to, like, when you move around like this, are you able to easily make friends? And then what about dating? Like, how does that work?
Well, the friendship issue, it's kind of tough to have really deep friendships with people because you see them for a couple of days and then you part ways and they part ways if you're constantly on the road. But it's it's really changed for me once I started to get more involved in these online communities like Dynamite Circle, and really making an effort to sustain relationships online and to talk to people online. And that way, when I meet up with them, there's not this like gap of 6 months where we haven't had contact with each other. Just following their blogs or following their Facebook statuses, and having Skype calls every now and then makes it easier to sustain these relationships. But it's also the people I tend to keep in contact with live a similar lifestyle, and I know that sometime in the next couple of years or months we'll see each other somewhere in the world, and hopefully they come to Brazil. But yeah, I like traveling, but I like having a community. I like having friends. I like having a routine. So right now I'm on a kind of more stationary phase. I'll be in Brazil for a while. But when I do travel, it'll be because my friends somewhere in the world are doing something cool. Yeah, so like the Dynamite Circle conference, that was a good excuse to go traveling. But yeah, those are pretty much the only reasons I travel now. If there's some business related thing, if there was something cool someone was doing somewhere, or if I wanted to go on just some random adventure in South America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'm planning on going. I think I'm going to be down there in March. I want to do Machu Picchu. So if you're around Peru in that vicinity, let's get together. I don't think I can.
Yeah. When are you planning on coming?
March, like mid-March.
Mid-March. Okay. Yeah. That'd be cool to. So you're doing Machu Picchu. Are you going to swing by Brazil or any of the other neighboring?
I don't know. I don't really have any official plans. I kind of don't really plan anything. I heard, so my friend that I met out in Chiang Mai, Niall, I don't know if you met that guy, the Irish guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Niall.
Yeah. So we chatted the other night, and he said he's going to be in Peru right before St. Patrick's Day in March, and I'm like, that's actually when I was planning on kind of going down that way. So I'm hoping to meet up with him and do the Machu Picchu thing, and then other than that, I don't really have any plans. But yeah, I know a lot of people are talking about trying to make it to Brazil for the World Cup, and for me, that doesn't. I mean, it sounds like it would be pretty fun, but at the same time, I know the crowds are going to be insane, and the money, it's going to be really expensive to stay anywhere near the World Cup. So
yeah, the World Cup is going to be really expensive. Like, people right now are already booking out their accommodations. I mean, people who provide accommodations are already booking them out right now, and they're charging, between $100 and $200 for like a bed in a hostel per night. Are some of the lower end prices I've heard, and all the way up to $500, $1,000, $2,000 for really extravagant places per night.
Yeah.
And so that's just accommodation. Prices are going to be inverted in other sectors as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a little much. But so how about the dating? How is dating down there in Brazil?
Well, most of the good things you've heard about Brazil and Brazilian women are probably true, but there's a lot of misconceptions about Brazilian women, and I think when foreigners come here, they think that Brazilian girls are like super into them when they're just being friendly. Like the average Brazilian girl is just a lot more friendlier, I think, than American women, and so for American guys coming here, they just think that every Brazilian girl is into them when they're that's just how they are. They have this really magnetic, warm personality. It's really cool, I think, just to be around girls that are a lot nicer.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a ton of Brazilians in San Diego. I guess they just like the climate here or whatever, but yeah, I've noticed that too. They're very friendly, and it could be misinterpreted for sure.
Yeah, for some reason, Brazilians love San Diego and San Francisco whenever they go to California. Like, those are the two places they always go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've had a lot of experience with them. I mean, like, interacting with them. You meet a lot of Brazilians down there.
There's quite a big community here, and my friend was dating a Brazilian girl, and so of course I met a lot of her friends, but they really kind of stick with each other. I mean, they want to speak Portuguese, and they, and they're really nice and friendly and stuff, but they seem to really enjoy their community of fellow Brazilians.
It's definitely understandable in some ways, because Brazilian culture and American culture are really kind of polar opposites in terms of how people interact with each other. Brazilians are a lot warmer, a lot friendlier, and just, it's like the little things, Yeah. It's like when you meet a Brazilian, they're gonna, like a guy, they're gonna pat you on the back and shake your hand and look you straight in the eye and ask you how you're doing. And if you go up to a group of Brazilians, they're gonna treat you as if you're a friend almost immediately. There's not gonna be this like awkwardness, and they're not gonna treat you like you're some zombie or something. They're just gonna accept you into the circle.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I had a Brazilian guy stay at my place last year, couch surfing, and yeah, that you described it exactly. I mean, super nice guy, and just wanted to get to know people, and yeah, so it was really cool experience. But yeah, so what are your plans now? What are you doing with your website, and are you going to stay there for a while?
Well, right now my focus is to just kind of increase the services that I offer to people coming to Brazil, and especially focused on English teachers. Just focus in on basically those two things, on English teachers in Brazil, and just find more ways to be helpful to them. I was trying to be too much for too many people and doing too many things, but now I'm trying to focus down and get really good at solving a very narrow set of problems.
Yeah.
So that's business-wise what I'll be doing, and I'll be around Brazil for at least until the World Cup. After that, I'll probably take a break from Brazil and go somewhere else for a while. But yeah, Brazil is definitely going to be a big part of my future. So actually, one thing I'm really excited about is I'm going to be doing ayahuasca for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Next month. Yeah, you heard about that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And can you do it there in Brazil, or is it you have to go to Peru for it?
It's legal to do it in Brazil. There's actually a religion that practices it. It's called Saint Daime. And yeah, they practice ayahuasca all over Brazil. I'm actually going to be heading up to the Amazon to do it with them. We're going to fly into Manaus and then take a 30-hour boat ride to a neighboring city.
Oh my God.
To do it there.
Oh, that sounds like...
Yeah.
I got to hear about this when you do it. Hopefully you're going to be posting pictures and stuff at least.
Yeah, if it's appropriate, I'll make a video and share that on the blog.
Yeah.
But, I mean, from what I've heard from people who've done this before, it's just a really life-changing experience and really changes the way you look at the world. So I'm excited to get the change perspective from that experience.
Yeah. Have you heard anything negative? I mean, I know that when people, everyone gets sick when they first take it.
Yeah, that seems to be pretty standard from people I've talked to. They get sick from it, they vomit. Not everybody vomits, but it's almost a foregone conclusion that you're going to vomit if you take ayahuasca. You can't drink or eat meat or have sex 3 days before you're going into the experience.
Uh-huh.
And once you drink the tea, so for people who don't know what ayahuasca is, it's basically just a hallucinogenic tea that you drink in a ceremonial fashion, and it gives you really intense visions and really connects you with the center of the universe. And yeah, so it just purges your system of all this impurity once you drink it, and then you have this really long trip, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
It could last 12 to 18 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'll definitely let you know how that is, and maybe report back in afterwards.
Yeah, good luck with that. I'm interested to hear your report on it.
Right on, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about it. That's about all I had. So, Josh, good luck with everything you're doing, and thanks for coming on the show. It was really interesting chatting.
Yeah, Kevin, it was a pleasure to be on the show. And if anybody is coming to Rio or coming to Brazil, please hit me up. I love meeting up with libertarian travelers who pass through here. And so, yeah, if you come this way, look me up, and I look forward to meeting you.
Or non-libertarians, right?
That works still. Yeah.
You can brainwash them.
I tried that for a while, but I think it's more fun to, you can't really convince people. If they want to be convinced, then they'll convince themselves. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally agree. Cool. We'll end it on that note. Again, it was Josh Plotkin of BrazilianGringo.com.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Freedom Lovin' Podcast. To break free today, head on over to freedomlovin.com and download our free guide. 7 practical tips to living free in an unfree world.